Okay, I want to take a little bit of time to go over the writing assignment. We've gone over it in class, but I just want to review some of the elements in case you might have missed them. So these are kind of the things you're going to want to keep in mind as you're writing, but also for checking the essay out when you're all done. Okay, so let me shrink myself down and I'll show you how to get to the essay assignment in the first place. We'll tap on Ezra Pound's shoulder, and that will take us to the 9th week. And this, again, I really want to emphasize, watch this on the Gilded Age. It will give you a little bit of a sense. It's a short video, I think about 10 to 15 minutes. It gives you a sense of the class issues that were behind a lot of the nature of the Great Gatsby. It isn't explicitly stated throughout that he's going to discuss class, but it's there again and again and again in scene after scene. So this will get to some of the issues that are going on at the time. And with some of the people who are becoming extraordinarily wealthy, but other people are being left behind. Okay, so we'll go through some of those folks. Here's the assignment sheet. Let's go through it. And let's move you down. You have a seat right there. Okay. Write a 6-paragraph essay that examines the aesthetics and their interactions with class or gender structures in the novel The Great Gatsby. And so you can construct a focus on either class or gender, but those will be examined through the lens of the aesthetics, the modernist aesthetics of Fitzgerald, okay, which I've discussed a good deal in class. The nature of how modernism was a bit of a broken looking glass of the working class in reflecting society that way. And you get those images of as Eliot had, his heap of shattered images. That's what you're going to get quite often in Fitzgerald, but it will come across in different ways. I've kind of oversimplified it just to make sure people have a sense of it in the first place. We'll go into it a little bit more, but you're going to write a 6-paragraph essay that examines the aesthetics and their interactions with either class or gender structures. Okay, so either way you want to go with it, you can, because he was very aware of how they were interacting. So what I want you to do is isolate specific points from the novel and work carefully with the characters, with what the characters say, but also what they do not say, okay, or do, and with the constructions of the narrative by Fitzgerald. So how does he represent these interactions? And you're not going to get a clear polemic. It's how it's commonly stated, where you have a clear bad guy, a clear good guy, you have a clear right and wrong. It's going to be complicated, okay? And it's going to be complicated by the aesthetics that are used to explore this. One of the things to keep in mind is that the aesthetics don't obscure the points about gender and class. What they do is enlighten the way they work, okay? So many of the elements in the novel can be difficult to follow at times. And you can read through a couple of pages and think it's perfectly normal. But when you slow it down and examine this passage here or another passage there, that's when you'll start to uncover difficulties and things that don't quite make sense and don't quite work well. And so the very important thing to keep in mind is that you're doing an essay, which is an analysis of the novel. What you're not doing is any kind of book report where you're covering the whole book, okay? What you're going to do is take on a character or characters. I would suggest not more than 2, okay? You can take on 1, but get them throughout the novel in different aspects, in different situations, and how is their situation represented, okay? So look at how they're represented and how class or how gender is personified in them. And let me blow myself up here. In each case, what you'll get is a problematic relationship, a difficult one to deal with. Jordan, for example, is in a lot of ways both exploiting other people, exploiting her ambiguity, her sexual ambiguity, but she's also, again, she's a woman trying to live in a man's world of wealth, and she's trying to. I think you can get with Jordan how difficult it is. But Jay Gatsby also personifies it. He comes from a more working class background that isn't entirely clear, but occupies a position of enormous wealth. Okay. And go into the different natures of how these things work, because they're going to work in really nuanced heap of shattered images way. Okay. So that's what I want you to do. Get your quotations and work through it. And go into how the nature of gender relationships or class relationships play out in the novel and give your insight into it. What I will want you to do is bring in an outside source to give some idea of how things, how did Fitzgerald really give us a flavor for the times? Because he did pay very close attention to his society around him, and to the elements of that, especially the commercial culture around him. I'll want you to get an outside source, but I really want to emphasize, don't go looking to the outside sources until you've nailed down your interpretation of those important passages from throughout the novel. Okay? So about 4 different passages from throughout the novel, different scenes. That's where you're going to be examining either class or gender through the lens that you get with aesthetics. And after you get your essay really nailed down, then bring in some type of outside source. Okay? So that's what we're doing for this essay. It's going to be 6 paragraphs, so about, rule of thumb, about 4 or 5 pages. That'll be it. Take care, you guys.